good morning. It is about 6:30 in the morning right now. I just got home from work, so if the lighting changes, it's because the sun is currently coming through my window. But that is one of my absolute favorite things. Working in the morning from like 2:45 to 6:45 or 5:45 depending on the day, is tiring, but I love driving home and getting to see the sunrise, and then I love having the whole rest of my day to just do whatever, because I'm a morning person and I just love mornings, so I love when the sun's rising. It's great. For today's video, I thought that I would do a kind of like synopsis, is that the correct word? I don't know, but just like talk about all of the stuff that I've watched over quarantine. I have kept a list since March 13th, which is when my state officially went into quarantine. I feel like that's when a lot of people went into quarantine, like big time, was either March 13th or that weekend. So like by March 16th they were like hunkered down. But I have kept it in my notes app, so every time I watch a TV show or a movie, I put it in my notes app. I've watched a lot of YouTube, but I'm not going to put YouTube in my notes app because I just think that's like odd, because I don't want to like put every video that I watch down. But it started March 13th, and I'm technically gonna still keep the list, even though like restrictions aren't as bad as they were before, but we're still technically in quarantine. Life is just a little bit more normal, so until COVID's officially gone, I'm gonna keep a list because I feel like it's fun and I enjoy it, and it kind of makes the best out of a bad situation. So Friday the 13th, I was supposed to have a movie night at my church, like a scary movie night at my church, and that obviously got canceled. So my sister and I watched Sharpay's Fabulous Adventure and Game Plan. So those were the first two videos I watched, or the movies that I watched. So next is a movie that I watched with my family at dinner. We had a lot of family dinners where we would just like watch a whole movie and sit there and eat dinner. And we do that a lot, but we haven't done it as much as we did over quarantine. But we watched War Games, which is a movie from, I believe it's the 80s. It has to be the 80s because it's before Matthew Broderick was in Ferris Bueller. So it's Matthew Broderick, and it's, I cannot remember who the girl is, but it's basically Matthew Broderick like hacks into like some government like website or something, but he thinks it's a game and it's about like war, like they're hacking into like a war website or something, but he thinks that he's playing like a video game or something of the sort. I don't know, it's an okay movie. My parents really liked it, and I'm just like, I wasn't that big of a fan of it. Like I probably won't watch it again. Next is He's Just Not That Into You, which is a movie I had actually never seen prior to watching it over quarantine, and I just think it's good. Like the cast is great, and it's just one of those feel-good movies. So yeah. Next I have Movies That Made Us, which is a series on Netflix, and I actually watched this after I watched Dirty Dancing. This was on a night that I watched like I literally watched movies all day. I was cleaning my room, but I was up until like 1 a.m. watching movies. So I watched Dirty Dancing, iconic 80s movie. I'm not gonna explain what that one's about because if you haven't seen it, honestly, I feel sorry for you because it's just so good. And I have seen Dirty Dancing like a million times. So I watched Dirty Dancing, which I have on DVD. It's not available on any streaming, I don't believe. Watched Movies That Made Us, which like I said, is a series on Netflix. And if you're into film as much as I am, and like if you watch a movie and then you like look up everything about it while you're watching it, which is what I always do, Movies That Made Us is a great series for you. It's about how they made Dirty Dancing. It's a 4-episode series, and it's about how they made Dirty Dancing, Ghostbusters, Home Alone, and I believe Die Hard is the 4th one. I have never seen Die Hard. I know I need to watch it, but I watched the Ghostbusters, the Home Alone, and the Dirty Dancing one because I have seen those movies, and they're very interesting. Dirty Dancing one was definitely my favorite because I had watched the movie right before, but I also really liked the Home Alone one. Next movie that I watched is The Babysitter's Club. The next movie I watched was Hairspray, iconic movie. I watch the movie all the time. This movie was the Hannah Montana movie. I love this movie. I think it's so good. Like for a Disney movie, it is pretty quality. Makes me cry every time. Of course, I watched the Sweet Life on Deck movie because I was on that Disney grind. Next one I watched, I had actually never seen all the way through before. I had seen parts of it, but it was Never Been Kissed with Drew Barrymore. The next movie is a horror movie, and I had watched this when I was really young, and then I probably since then I've seen it a couple times since the first time I've seen it, but it's What Lies Beneath with Harrison Ford, and I believe it's Michelle Pfeiffer. This movie is really chilling, and it's not even like I wouldn't even say it's a horror movie. I think it's more of a thriller, but it like gives me the creeps every time I watch it. And the next movie is Diary of a Wimpy Kid. These books I was obsessed with as a child. I still have every single one of them, and I have read every single one of them. So watching Diary of a Wimpy Kid when they put it on Disney Plus was just the highlight of my week. I love that movie. I think it's hilarious. I don't know if anybody else thinks it's funny, but like I crack up so much when I watch Diary of a Wimpy Kid. The next one is a series. Now, I have it written down as I watched the whole series, but I technically didn't. So a couple weeks before we went into quarantine, I was watching Secret Life of an American Teenager because I had never seen it. And I remember when it came out on ABC Family, which is now Freeform, my mom like wouldn't let me watch it. Like it came out around the same time as Pretty Little Liars, and I was so confused on what was on ABC Family and I couldn't watch it. But I ended up watching it, and I just got to like season 3 and I just couldn't. I could not bring myself to do it anymore, and I'm definitely not like that at all. When I watch a show, if I'm like 2 seasons in, I commit to it and I finish it no matter how bad it is. And I just couldn't do it anymore. That's so bad. But I ended up watching, I think like the last episode. Like I skipped the last episode just to see what ended up happening, and it was just, I don't think I'm ever gonna watch that show again. If I do, I will be very surprised. Next is a classic, 10 Things I Hate About You. I watch the movie all the time. Nothing new. Next we have Camp Rock 2. I like the second one more. I think it's less cheesy and the storyline is better. That could be an unpopular opinion, but Camp Rock 2 is superior. Next movie I was literally obsessed with for like a good week. Like I watched it 3 times within this week. And it is Love, Rosie, and I am obsessed with that movie. It is so good. It is one of the cutest love stories I have ever seen. I watched it by myself one night, and then either the next night or the night after I watched it on FaceTime with my best friend, and she was obsessed with it. And then I watched it again later in the week because it's just so good. Like Sam Claflin and Lily Collins have so much on-screen chemistry. It's insane. The next one I watched is Forever My Girl. This next movie I'm pretty sure I've also talked about, but this started my Timothée Chalamet marathon. So the next few movies are going to be Timothée Chalamet movies. So I watched Lady Bird to begin with because I am obsessed with Saoirse Ronan. And I'm sure a lot of you have probably seen this movie or at least heard of it. It's very, very, very good. It's a Greta Gerwig movie. The next one is Hot Summer Nights. This is probably my least favorite Timothée Chalamet movie, and honestly it's not bad at all. It is just not my cup of tea. I think it's a little odd, like the editing is kind of strange. And then I watched Beautiful Boy with Steve Carell and Timothée Chalamet. That one was so cute. It made my heart melt. And sadly I didn't get to finish my marathon off with Call Me By Your Name because no streaming service on earth has this movie. I don't understand why. So I haven't watched that movie yet, but I'm very excited to when the time comes. The next movie I watched is My Best Friend's Wedding. The next movie I watched is The Hunger Games, and then I watched Catching Fire twice. And then I watched Blue Valentine. Over quarantine I have been going on Netflix and just finding like really fun and almost like film festival movies that really aren't mainstream. I really like watching those because those are usually the best ones. So I watched Blue Valentine. It's Michelle Williams and Ryan Gosling. I briefly remember this movie. It was really good. But Ryan Gosling plays like I think he plays an alcoholic, and Michelle Williams is a mother, and it's about their relationship. The next one is a movie that I love so much, and it's cheaper by the dozen. Next is The Outsiders. I've also seen this movie multiple times. I've read it a few times. The next movie is The Man in the Moon. I'm sure not a lot of you have heard of this. I would be really surprised if you have because it is definitely not a mainstream movie at all. But I have been watching this movie since I was a child. So since like before I moved into this house, which was over 10 years ago. It is Reese Witherspoon's first movie, I believe. And it also might be like her first acting job ever. But it takes place, I think it's like Louisiana. It's Louisiana or some like southern part of the country. It's a good one. I believe it's on Hulu. And it's just like it's just a cute movie. Next, we have Teen Beach Movie. I love this movie. I feel like this movie was so underrated when it first came out. People were like, this is so dumb. And I always loved it. It's good. It's Ross Lynch, Maya Mitchell, good songs, feel good, summertime. Next are all 5 Twilight movies. The next movie I watched was Eli, and I literally could not remember. Oh wait, I remember. This is a thriller. I'm hope I'm thinking about the right movie. It's a thriller, and Eli goes to this, like, I think Eli's allergic. The main character, Eli, is allergic to everything. So his parents take him, maybe he's allergic to air. He's allergic to something. It's either everything or he's allergic to air or something that's like very essential to life. So they take him to this like specialist, but this specialist is like a cult or something. I don't know, it's very wild. The plotline is crazy. But it's one of those like hidden gems on Netflix where you're just like, oh, I'll watch that, and it ends up being really good. Eli, there you go. If you like thrillers, watch it. Next up, we have Legally Blonde. I really don't need to explain this one. Legally Blonde is iconic. Next movie on my list is Marriage Story. Update, I got hungry, so I grabbed some pineapple. But I was talking about Marriage Story, but it has Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver in it, and it is so good. It is heartbreaking, but it's like the right kind of heartbreak that you need in a movie. It is excellent. I recommend you watch it. It's just so raw, and I literally want to cut my heart out for Adam Driver. Like, I love that man. Next is we have Life as We Know It, which I have actually watched twice over quarantine, and the first time I watched it was the first time I had ever watched in my life, and then I watched it a couple weeks ago for the second time. Next is Valentine's Day. This is another one of those multiple intertwining stories. It's about Valentine's Day. It has a stellar cast. Next is My Girl. This movie I was so excited to watch because I feel like it gets so hyped up. It has Macaulay Culkin in it when he was a kid, obviously. But it gets so hyped up, and I knew the plot of it. Spoiler alert, if you don't want a spoiler alert, I knew that he died, and I knew they got stung by bees, and I've seen that scene before. But that movie was just not like I might watch it again, but it was not like all people cracked it up to be. Like, it's not all that in a bag of chips. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't like it that much. I just didn't. Like, I feel like there was so much more. I kind of feel like the plot almost missed. Like, it was like trying to get somewhere and it didn't get there, you know? The next movie I watched when I was little. And it's called Summer 11. It's either a film festival movie or it's filmed like a film festival movie. Very laid back. It's a good movie. Next one I watched is Frozen 2. I watched National Treasure 2 because I like National Treasure 2 more than National Treasure. Usually, I do. Next movie I watched, it was a double feature night and my family dinner, and we watched Clue, the original one with Tim Curry, which I have seen multiple times, and we watched Knives Out, which I've also seen multiple times, and I love Knives Out. I highly, highly recommend Knives Out to anyone. Everyone who I know who has seen it loves it and thinks it's so well done. Next is Gossip Girl. Yes, I watched Gossip Girl all the way through over quarantine. We're just not going to talk about that. It's an unhealthy addiction, but it's my favorite show. So, the next movie I watched was Leap Year. It's good. I enjoyed it. And the next thing I watched is When Harry Met Sally. The next movie I watched was Grace Unplugged. This movie came out when I was in middle school, and I loved it in middle school. It has Allie and AJ. I'm pretty sure it's AJ is in it. But she's a Christian singer, and she's trying to figure out if she wants to be a Christian musician or a like popular musician, and she goes back to her roots and goes back to God. The next one I watched, I was so freaking excited when they put it on Netflix, and it's Perks of Being a Wallflower. They finally put it on Netflix, and I watched it. It's fantastic. Please watch it. It's so good. The next one I was also pumped for, and it's The Last Song, and they put it on Disney Plus some point in April. I think they actually put it on earlier than they were supposed to. Well, I almost dropped my pineapple. Last Song is a classic. It's a good, you know, if you need some Liam and Miley content. I watched The Princess Diaries and The Princess Diaries 2 because you gotta watch both. I can't pick which one I like more, but I will say that Chris Pine is in the second one, so. The next movie is another horror movie / thriller movie, but my mom actually recommended this movie to me, and it's on Netflix, and it is perfect if you're about to be in college. It's called The Roommate. It has Leighton Meester, in it. I think I've talked about this movie before. Next is Princess Protection Program on Disney Plus. This is probably one that I put on in the background while I was doing something else. Next is Breakfast at Tiffany's, which is one of my favorite movies. It's on my top 10 list. The next one I watched is A Quiet Place. I actually watched this at my friend's house while we were socially distancing. We did like a drive-in movie, so we all stayed in our cars, and she had a projector and we watched A Quiet Place on the projector. The next thing on my list is a show, and this is a show that my family absolutely adores. We watch it all the time at dinner, and it's The Middle. This is a show that you can just put on and just laugh your butt off to. It is so funny. There's a couple episodes that are so heartwarming, and it's just a good like family show to watch. It's so funny. If you've seen The Middle, comment down below, because it's such a good show. My favorite episode is when they go to Disney World. It's great. The next movie I watched with my family one night, and it's called Look Who's Talking. Next is Summer Night. This movie I watched one night over FaceTime with Abby and Emma again on one of our movie nights, and we were like, oh, that looks cute. It was a good cast. I think Victoria Justice was in it, and Lana Condor, and a couple of other people. We're like, oh, that looks cute. We watched it. I literally could not sit through it anymore. The next movie is in my top 3. It is one of my faves. It's Little Women. The next one is Aladdin. Honestly, I don't remember watching this movie. It is the cartoon, the original version. I don't know when I watched it, but it's on the list, and Aladdin's iconic. So the next movie is Monte Carlo. This is one of my favorite movies to watch in the summer, and really kind of just life in general. It's just so like, I don't know, I just love it. It's great. Next is The Muppets. I actually watched this movie with my friends over FaceTime, so there was like 7 of us, and we decided to watch The Muppets. The next movie I watched, I think it had come out on Netflix on that day that I watched it, and it's called Love, Wedding, Repeat. It has Sam Claflin. Love him. I've watched a lot of Sam Claflin movies over quarantine. Next, I watched Can't Hardly Wait, which is a movie from late 80s, early 90s, and it's just like a iconic teen chick flick. Theme of iconic teen chick flicks, we have Say Anything with the one, the only John Cusack. Next we have High School Musical 3, which I watched on the day of my graduation. This next one I watched, I keep moving, sorry, my back's hurting. This next one I watched with my sister in her room one night, and it's Onward on Disney Plus. Onward, I was sobbing, like full on sobbing. My mom came up to check on me. It's just so cute. Chris Pratt and Tom Holland are perfect for that movie. It's adorable. Please watch Onward. This one I watched is a little bit more serious, and I kind of over quarantine went through a little bit of like a biopic phase, kind of. Not even biopic, but like historical real like movies. While I was in this biopic / historical movie phase, I watched Parkland, which is a movie about John F. Kennedy and the assassination of John F. Kennedy, but it's from the doctor's perspective, which I thought was really interesting. It has Zac Efron in it. Another one that I watched is called My Week with Marilyn, and it has Michelle Williams and Eddie Redmayne in it, and Michelle Williams plays Marilyn Monroe. The next thing I watched is a series, and it's High School Musical, the musical, the series. I've seen it before, but I decided to binge it again. It's only 10 episodes. I probably finished it in a day. Next is the Reputation tour movie. I remember watching this one while I was cleaning my room. I just had it on in the background. Next two I watched with my sister. We had a night in our screening porch. We ate some food out there and watched Diary of a Wimpy Kid Dog Days and Diary of a Wimpy Kid Project Rules. I watched is Happiness Continues, a Jonas Brothers concert film. This one I watched at dinner with my family. I've seen it hundreds of millions of times. Ferris Bueller. It's so good. I can quote that movie like the back of my hand. Next is a series, and it is Hollywood. I actually watched this series while I was taking a pop culture class, and we were learning about the things that were happening in the series, which I thought was really interesting. Next is For Love or Money. I watched this movie because I like Michael J. Fox, and they had just put it on Netflix. This one I watched is Hannah Montana, the series. I think I only watched season 3 and season 4. Next thing is I watched Outer Banks 3 times. Yes, 3 times, back to back. Next is a series called The Wonder Years, which is from the 80s, and it takes place in the 60s. This is my sister's favorite show. I watched it again. I've seen it before, probably like 3 years ago or something all the way through. But I watched it again all the way through, and that one's a tear jerker. I cry and cry and cry almost every episode. So Yes. Next movie I watched is the Bee Movie, and then I watched Back to the Future Part 2. It's my favorite Back to the Future, by the way. After I was done with the Wonder Years, I decided to watch a new series, and it's called Manifest. The next movie I watched is What a Girl Wants. Next, I watched Soul Surfer. Next is a series that I'm actually in the middle of, and it is one that I watch every single summer since I was like 10, and it's H2O. Then I finished This Is Us over quarantine, the entire series. Every episode made me cry. I'm pretty sure I've talked about this series before, but you need to watch it. You need This Is Us in your life, genuinely. Like, it is so good. Next movie I watched is I Still Believe when it dropped on Hulu, I believe, which is the streaming service that it was put on. It's pretty good. I like KJ Apa, and I tend to like the movies based off of real people, so. The next movie that I watched, I actually had to wait to get from the library. I had to put it on hold because I don't own it and it's not available on any streaming service. But Leonardo DiCaprio is my favorite actor ever, and a lot of his movies aren't available on streaming services for some reason, so I always have to get them from the library or buy them. So I got The Great Gatsby from the library. I love that movie. I love the book so much. So I got the 2013 version and watched it because I hadn't seen it in a bit. Next one, or the next two, I saw at the drive-in. So there was one movie called Chance, which was a like regionally filmed movie in my area, so I watched that, and then I watched Grease at the drive-in, which is something that I've been wanting to do for years. The next movie I watched with my sister, and we were just trying to find a movie to watch, and we ended up watching Judy Moody and the Not Bummer Summer, which is a movie we watched a bunch as a kid. Then the next series is also one of the ones that me and my family just watch when we're sitting around the house, and it's Chrisley Knows Best. It's a reality TV show. Next movie that I watched, I put on while I was cleaning my room, and it's the Brady Bunch movie. And then I watched Just Go With It. The next movie is Country Strong, which I believe isn't on Netflix anymore. I could be wrong, but my mom recommended this movie to me. The next one I watched is So Sharp, which is a reality TV show about a college dance team. I watched that on YouTube one night. I think I watched it all in one night. It's not that long. Then I watched The First Kissing Booth because that's also a movie that I enjoy watching in the summer. Watched Shrek. Watched 13 Reasons Why season 4 when it dropped at the beginning of June. Next movie I watched is actually it was called Before I Fall, and I don't even think that I really watched it. Like, I think I put it on in the background. I wasn't really that interested in it. The next one is also another classic summer movie, and it's Parent Trap, the Lindsay Lohan version. And with my family one night we watched Catch Me If You Can, which is a classic Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks movie. It was so good. The next show I watched, I get through shows like crazy. The Politician season 2, it came out on Netflix over quarantine, and I literally finished it in a day. I watched the movie Feel the Beat. It came up on my Netflix recommended, and I'm a dancer, so I watched it. It was really cute. The next movie I watched, I loved so much. It has Timothée Chalamet in it, and it's called Miss Stevens. It's just really, really good. It's kind of filmed very interestingly, and the story is very interesting, and I really enjoyed it because I'm a big like artsy film person, and it was definitely like an artsy kind of film. Like I said, I went through a biopic phase over quarantine, so I watched Diana with Naomi Watts. I got it from the library. Next, I watched Bridesmaids, because how can you not watch Bridesmaids when you're stuck in your house? And then after a long like 3 weeks waiting for it from the library, I finally watched Titanic. The next movie I watched was Dance Academy. I actually watched this movie twice. I watched it once before I watched the series again, and then I watched it again after I watched the series. I've seen the Dance Academy series before, but I haven't seen it in probably like 5 or 6 years, so I watched it again. The next movie I also watched with my family, and it is Jojo Rabbit. This is probably one of the best movies I've ever seen. It is so good. It's Taika Waititi's movie. I think that's how you say his name. Sorry if I mispronounced it. But he is an excellent screenwriter and director. He's so good. I'm pretty sure he's the screenwriter for it. But he also plays Adolf Hitler in the movie. And Jojo Rabbit is about a Hitler youth child, and Scarlett Johansson plays his mom, and then Adolf Hitler is the kid's imaginary friend. And the kids in this movie are adorable. They melt my little heart. And it's a really interesting take on a Holocaust movie. The next movie I watched is one that I've been, oh my gosh, my phone keeps going off, is one that I have been waiting to watch for a while, and I just have never gotten around to it, and it's Edge of 17 with Haley Steinfeld. Woody Harrelson is great in it, as always. Next movie I watched, people were like in awe that I had never seen it before. I was telling my friends and my mom and my sister about it, and they were like, you have never seen that movie? I am the biggest Mandy Moore fan. I love her. And I had never seen A Walk to Remember. I think it's partly because it was never really on a streaming service. Or when it was, I like couldn't watch it or something. Next movie I watched is also a summer movie that I always watch, and it's Lizzie McGuire the movie. One I watched is Miss Congeniality. That's also one that was on TV a lot growing up. And I watched Double Jeopardy. I watched this prior to middle school, I believe, which I probably shouldn't have been watching that movie prior to middle school because it is dark. Next two movies I also saw at the drive-in, and they were Inside Out and Empire Strikes Back. The next movie I actually watched on my self-care night that I posted, my self-care routine, and it's Heathers. I had never seen it before. Right now I'm watching One Tree Hill, the series. Then I watched Clueless and then Sinister in the same night. Then me and my sister again were trying to find something to watch, and I wanted to watch something that I hadn't ever seen, but The Artist came up on Netflix, and I remember seeing in the paper that The Artist had won, I think it won Best Picture in the year that it came out. I think like 2012 or 2011 maybe. I could be off. But it's a silent film, and I was like, that is so cool that it won. I didn't think I was gonna like it, but it's excellent. The acting is top notch. The next movie I watched is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's also a very artsy piece that you have to really just like soak in, but it's La La Land. It's my second favorite movie ever. I love that movie so much. I would do anything to watch that movie for the first time again. It is so good. Then I watched The Notebook to stay on that Ryan Gosling vibe. Finally, I watched Not Another Teen Movie with my mom. I watched Kissing Booth 2 on the day that it dropped. I like the first one better. The second one wasn't bad, but I do like the first one better. My mom the other day worked a double at work, so we sat in the break room and watched Willy Wonka. And then a couple nights ago I went to the drive-in again, and I saw The Greatest Showman at Mamma Mia, which is probably the drive-in's best lineup ever. I enjoyed myself so much. I have two more movies on the list that I have watched over quarantine so far, and they are One Direction, This Is Us, and One Direction, Where We Are live from San Siro Stadium, because that dropped yesterday. It's no longer available because it was only available for 24 hours, but I watched the heck out of it. I haven't seen One Direction, This Is Us in a while, so it was fun to watch that. But yeah. So that is everything that I have watched over quarantine. The list was so long. If you watched any of these, leave me a comment down below, or if you want to watch them or whatever, leave me a comment down below, and I will see you guys next time. Stay safe, stay healthy. Bye.